Hi, art teacher here with you again, still talking about sketchbook idea or ideas. Do your subscriptions, your likes, your comments, leave a comment below, all that regular YouTube stuff. Now, I want to talk about, again, this is a series of videos where I'm talking about different ideas that you can use when drawing in your sketchbook. My earlier one was doing abstract or non-representational art within a sketchbook. Now I want to talk about realistic drawing. And this is something that requires a little more patience, a little more time, and not that non-representational art doesn't require patience and time, but you're using a higher level of observation with this, and maybe a slightly different way of thinking, although some of the skills are the same. With the non-representational art, you were thinking a lot about rhythm, movement, compositional ideas like that. In this type of art, I'm not really stressing that when I'm talking about these representational or realistic type drawings. And let me just show you a little bit of what I have here, and we can sort of take it from there. Well, these are some things that I've enjoyed drawing, because I like to draw machinery and things that are old and interesting. And here you see I have this kind of cool looking old radio, and it's all doesn't work. Well, it works a little bit actually. It does work a little bit. And it's kind of old but interesting looking. And here I have a roughly drawn out sketch in my sketchbook just from observation and looking. And that's just up the front of this decorative dial and a few other items that are kind of decorative on that radio. And it's a simple line drawing. I haven't added the shadows, shading, or value on it. Definitely go back and look at the value series. Now, one thing I like to do is look at interesting things like this. Here you can see I have a variety of different tubes, wires, and circuits and stuff in there. And I like to make kind of realistic drawings of things like that. And what I've done here is a light line drawing of what you see there, the tubes, the speaker, and things like that. And I focused in on one area to try to put some value and shading on, and that's this little tube right there, that little guy. And again, looking at the reflection that's on that tube. And if you were to look close, you'd see the sketchbook and my hand in the reflection on that tube, carefully drawn using some of those value ideas from that earlier set of lessons. Please go back and look at that if you didn't quite get that. Little can of, not spray paint, but what's that stuff called? Crystal clear. You spray that on top of your pencil drawings. It's like a clear spray paint, but what it does is it prevents it from getting smeared and smudged. So when you're done, you got to take it outside, put a light coat like that, just gently going back and forth over it with that crystal clear stuff. That's a can of it right there. This is the little drawing of a jar, looking closely at the light and shadow, going strictly by observation, not by what I think is there, but by looking. And that's the type of art that I'm doing here. Here's a vase, and within that vase I have the reflection, which is me, wearing a dark shirt. I always tend to wear a dark shirt, and my sketchbook all seen within the reflection on that vase. These are a few selections in my sketchbook here. There I have a little latch, and that came from this interesting, kind of strange piece of machinery, and I just was drawing the latch. There's a couple brushes. I'm just showing you some selections from my sketchbook before I talk about specifics on how to do this. There's that vase, again, same vase. I didn't finish this out with the shading. There's a stapler and one of those large brushes, all put together in one little drawing. Here I have this piece of machinery, and actually, to tell you the truth, I'm not really sure what this thing does, though it has some directions here. And what I've done is made a drawing of that with a light source, the light coming from a certain direction. So there's that unusual piece of machinery, which has a mysterious origin and use. And there is my drawing of it. And I like to draw things like that. There's a great artist named Walter Merck, and he draws and paints carburetors. Look him up. It's kind of influenced by him a little. I like his work. And there's just a little bent up drain plug. So those are a few selections from my sketchbook of kind of realistic things that I like to draw and that I've drawn over time. Get that out of the way. Now, that just gives you a few basic ideas for things that you can do. Now, what I've done there is set up little still lifes, either one object or several objects in an arrangement, and then I have a light source. In other words, I like to turn out all the lights, maybe even use a window from one side if light is streaming in from the window and it comes in and hits that object and the shadows reveal the form of that object. Now, get one or more objects on a table, maybe with a piece of paper underneath it, and turn out the lights and maybe get one light pointing at it. You could even use a flashlight if you wanted to. Or probably what I like to do is use natural light, open the windows on one side so the light comes in and streams in onto and bathes that object or objects in some natural light, revealing those shadows. Then I'm looking close and thinking about what I see. Now, there's kind of a specific way that I like to, or technique, that I like to use when I'm drawing. It's a measurement technique. Here's the kind of funny thing about it, and I'm talking about realistic drawing in a sketchbook here. Okay? I'm going to talk more about this measurement technique later, but in the context of this, I'm going to kind of give you an abbreviated explanation of it. Here's the funny thing about it. One of my teachers said, no, it's probably true, he could trace his teachers back in a straight lineage to the workshop of this guy, Titian. That was a high Renaissance, late Renaissance, maybe even early Baroque artist. Titian, he's pretty good. Look him up on Wikipedia. So that's how you spell that. Okay, T-I-T-I-A-N. You can look that name up on Wikipedia and learn about him. That's a Renaissance artist. Everybody heard of Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, but this guy is on the same level. He's real good, you know, Titian. So look that guy up on Wikipedia. They've got a good article on him. Anyway, one of my teachers traced his lineage of teachers right back to the workshop of Titian, and that's where I picked up some of these ideas. So I guess because he could trace his teachers back to Titian, and he was my teacher, that would kind of, I mean, I could too, I guess. I don't know, it's kind of a silly thing. Now, anyway, let's talk specifically about how to use measurement in drawing, just in an informal way, on a sketchbook. And that's going to be a way that you can draw realistically. So, I'll find a blank page here on my sketchbook and set up kind of a little still life of, well, actually just with one object, this big boy here. And what I want to do is kind of quickly, and I'll use a color pencil for this. I got a couple color pencils on this. You just probably would want to use a regular one. I closed up the room for the year, so I don't have everything handy, but I got a couple color pencils. Now, a quick explanation of my measurement or this measurement idea. Number one, I look at an object, okay, and I get a feel for it. Okay, I want to do this one horizontally because it is kind of long and horizontal like that. Then, the idea is to establish points. So I'm looking here at this object, and I can pick this corner right there. That's my first point. Now I know you're not looking at this object from the same point of view I am. You don't have to understand this idea. So, okay, here's my first point that I'm establishing, and I'll just put a dot on my paper kind of lightly, and that dot will represent that point. Now, I'm going to want to establish several more large points throughout the whole measure of the object. In other words, they can be a pretty good distance from each other. I'm not doing fine detail. I'm blocking in the larger proportions here. So I've got this point here, and I think a convenient point next would be right here at this end. So what I want to do is see what is the relationship of this point to that point at that end. So I'm going to take my pencil, okay, right there, and find that angle. Okay, then I use the back of my pencil to lightly draw that. I'm not drawing it with my pencil even. And then I'm double checking it. Now I can establish anywhere along that line. See what I did? I got that angle, and then I made that same angle come off of this point right here. Okay? And anywhere along that line, I can establish my second point. I'm going to establish my second point by thinking about how large I want to draw this object. The larger I want to draw it, the further away from that first point it's got to be. If I want to make it small, then I bring it in more. So that makes sense, right? So now I have 2 points established. One, then this one down here. 2. And that has the correct angle. They are the correct angle from each other. So that's a big advantage because now my proportions are going to make a lot more sense than if I just looked at it and did a contour or a blind contour drawing. I'll do a whole video on that. That's a whole other thing. This is a measurement technique, probably about the opposite of that other stuff. Now, my next point I want to get is down here, the bottom of this object. So, as I look at it, I can go plumb straight down. Okay, that's literally straight down from it. So, make a nice plumb line going straight down. Practice your straight lines, by the way. You could do hundreds of straight lines just going from here to there. Boom, boom, with confidence. Get your confidence in your line. Straight line down, verticals, boom, 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 boom. Horizontals, boom, 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 boom. Get good at making those straight lines. That's going to help your drawing a lot. Anyway, I'm going straight down from here. Now, in order to find the correct place where that bottom corner is, I'm going to need to find the angle from here to that bottom corner. So, get my pencil again, put one end of it here on that, line up one end of it to that dot, which is represented by the dot on my paper, put the other end down here at this area and find that angle. So there it is. I got the angle. That's it. Now, lightly with the back of my pencil, make a light line just with the wood. Double check it. Now I can draw that line lightly in. So now I have, double check it again. Now I have 3 points. The corner below it, and then that upper one, which is right here. And they're all in the correct place. So I have stuff that I know is going to have the correct proportions. Now, in order to get a couple more angles right, what I want to do is line up this one and that one maybe to this part. To this part right here. So, here we go. I'll put my pencil so that it lines up with that point. Get the correct angle. I don't want to say the term right angle because that means something else in geometry, but I'll get the correct angle. Okay. Now, do it lightly with the back of my pencil so it makes ever so light an indentation on the paper. Hardly perceptible at all, but what I can do then is go back in. Double check that. So lightly draw that line in. Now I need to line up this corner with that corner. And where those two lines intersect or cross, I will have established another point. So. And I want to kind of stay in the same place where I'm seated. I don't want to move my position around too much when I do that, right? That'll mess things up a little. Not too much though. Okay, I think I got that angle. And I've established a fourth point. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and they are all, as you can see right there, they're all in the correct place in relation to each other. Now, I could go through that process and keep establishing points just to make the larger shapes of this object and put them in the right place. Just continue with that, and I could even do, and then when you first start doing this, you need to establish many points. I'd establish at least a dozen if I was just starting, up to 25, between 12 to 25, just to get used to doing it. Then, what you're doing is you are training your perception here. After you've established about, say, 20 points on this object, then you go in and you can start drawing the details around each of those points in each of those areas and working them together into one larger drawing where everything fits together nicely. So what you're doing is building sort of a skeleton or a armature, okay? So that everything is in the right place. Then go back, start working on the details. Then the last thing, of course, you do is work on some textures. Then the very last thing, maybe do some shading, get your values in place. I know I gave you a lot right there, but the idea is find some interesting objects. In this case, cool old radio, interesting old piece of machinery, which I don't know what it's used for. Maybe a vase which has a reflective quality, a jar. Something with a reflective quality is always interesting. Find some interesting objects. Give a try with this measurement technique. Just try it out, see if it works for you. Really, the first, say, 5 to 10 drawings you do with this technique are just going to be the practice ones. After you get good at it, though, you can knock them out really good, and it's good for drawing the human beings and human figures as well. I'm going to let it go with that, but you know, to tell you the truth, I'm going to come back to this measurement technique, and we're going to use this again. It's a very valuable drafting technique or drawing technique that I really highly recommend using. Again, the idea is in order to get your proportions right or correct, in order to get your proportions correct, you need to use angles and establish points. Once those points are established, then just use your perception and your drawing skill to fill in the detail type areas. If you wanted to go crazy with it though, you could establish hundreds of different points and that would really help develop your sense of your visual perception and your ability to see things in proper proportion. It helps you learn to get good at drawing. So this is a rigorous activity. This is a rigorous activity that makes you good at drawing. So if you're serious about getting good at drawing, try that. Hey, you take care now. Leave a comment.